Fine. Good morning once again. Welcome to the newspaper review segment of Good Morning Africa. As usual, we are live from our studios at number 48 Swanika Street in Abelinkwe. We are also live across 46 other African countries via satellites in some parts of Europe and, of course, South America. Many thanks for tuning in. Before I proceed to introduce my guests, these are the topics that we shall be discussing this morning. We'll be going to Nigeria because we have learned that armed groups have killed 113 in series of attacks across central Nigeria. Also, we will use all means necessary to protect ballot in 2024. This is from the National Democratic Congress ahead of the 2024 general elections. And our last topic for this morning's conversation, we shall be looking at the NPP's parliamentary primaries that will be taking place on the 27th of January of next year. The few persons who have already decided not to contest, they won't be going to, they will not be part of the 9th parliament. So these are the topics that we are discussing for the morning. As usual, I'll implore you to be a part of today's conversation. Let me know what your thoughts are. Our text lines remain very active. Also on Facebook, we are streaming live. Join and also leave your comments. This morning, I've been joined by Dr. Mohammed Ibrahim. Mr. Mohammed Ibrahim is an economist, and also he is a member of the National Democratic Congress's communication team. Mr. Mohammed, good morning.
Good morning.
Right. I'm sure it's your first time here with us.
It's my first time, and I thank you and my communication team for the opportunity to be here for the first time. I watch, I admire of course, our senior Kwesi Pratt is somebody a lot of us looked up to, and I've had the opportunity to teach his alma mater. And the whole school is basking in his glory. Once they say Kwesi Pratt attended Tema Secondary School, old students, current students think that then there's hope for everybody.
Great.
We are basking in your glory.
Great.
And then I thank God for your life and your contribution. Thank you for the opportunity to be here for the first time.
Right, you're welcome. You're welcome. Elvis, good morning.
I'm well. How are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you.
Merry Christmas to all of us.
Many happy returns. Mr. Pratt, good morning.
Good morning.
And thank you for joining us as usual. We are extremely grateful. So without further ado, we'll start our first conversation. Armed groups have killed more than 100 people in a string of attacks targeting towns across central Nigeria, and another deadly episode in the region with persistent religious and ethnic tensions. Local officials on Monday said the toll of the weekend attacks by armed groups, sometimes called bandits, has risen to 113, increasing sharply from the government's initial count of 16. As many as 113 persons have been confirmed killed as Saturday's hostilities persisted to early hours of Monday. Monday Kasa, head of the local government in Bokos in Plateau State, told the Agence France Presse News Agency. It goes on to say that Kasa said the well-coordinated attacks, which also injured more than 300 people, targeted at least 20 communities across the region. Proactive measures will be taken by the government to curb ongoing attacks against innocent civilians, said Jan Berry, a spokesperson for Plateau Governor Caleb Mutfwang. Kasa did not say who was responsible for the attacks, but noted that the injured were taken to hospital. Plateau is one of several states that make up the ethnically and religiously diverse Middle Belt in Nigeria, where climate change and expanding agriculture has strained communities and increased tensions between Muslim herders and Christian farmers. Hundreds of people have been killed in cases of intercommunal violence in recent years. After the weekend attacks, the right groups, Amnesty International, said authorities in the West African nation have been failing to end frequent deadly attacks on rural communities of Plateau State. This is where I'll end the story and give Elvis Bota the opportunity to share his thoughts with us.
We're going to give you the opportunity as usual. Anyway, so a very good morning again to my father. Merry Christmas to you. We pray to see you in bigger glory in the coming year. and to continue to learn from your depth of experience. We are truly proud of you. I'm not going to particularly leave this to only the Temasco students. So I'm also taking mine because I know he has some good foundations from the north also. And of course, my brother, the NDC economist, whom I'm meeting for the first time today. You are welcome to the platform of objective analysis of national issues. It is sad that Nigeria had got to celebrate Christmas in the manner, it happened. We woke up to very disturbing news as early as, I think, on the 21st. These disturbances actually started, but were taken for granted. And eventually, they would lead to the massacre of, in excess of about 130 people. And the death roll is still increasing, and communities are still particularly, going through attacks. The military confronts the situation in one community. The next moment, you actually find the bandits in another community. And at the end of the day, it is becoming a common norm, in a number of agrarian communities in central Nigeria, particularly within Plateau State. Plateau State is one of the most interesting places globally. If you understand the mountainous nature of the place, the geographical situation of it, and the kind of natural, scenery, the kind of landscape it has, Plateau State is argued as one of the most beautiful places on planet Earth, actually. And the United Nations itself have recognized, the critical tourism potential of the place as well as its ecological endowment. It is also argued that by soil scientists that the soil composition of Plateau State and its surrounding communities have a rich mix of soil chemical composition that supports a lot of, agronomy and certain type of flowers, and this is now horticulture, certain kind of flowers that would naturally not flourish in our normal soils actually, does very well there. And the France on an occasion accused Nigeria of not making use of Plateau State because the flowers and ornaments alone that could be grown there could have been enough to solve over half of the economic challenges of not just Nigeria but the sub-region. So this tells you that Plateau State is situated strategically in a number of ways. And so with such a background, it creates an understanding of why lately a lot of people are now even migrating from northeast Nigeria, which hitherto was the food basket of the continent, and now moving towards central Nigeria in areas of Plateau State and in a few areas around Sokoto. Now, if you look at the climate patterns, you will realize that climate change is fast eroding the gains in farming communities. Now, particularly if you consider the story of Nigeria, Nigeria is that country in West Africa that is at the moment suffering the extreme environmental and ecological impacts of what we call the Sudano-Sahelian drought. So it is fast becoming a desert. So you now go to Borno State, Yobe, Adamawa, and you get to realize that a lot of the areas within these states is becoming a complete desert where you can do 200 kilometers in some cases. So you are moving like a place from Borno to Baga to Bagasola, and you realize that you can just drive around without seeing a single tree for a number of kilometers. So clearly livelihoods are at the peril and are being undermined by way of food security, economic security, and of course the attendant health implications. And these are further exacerbated by the perilous nature of global warming and the rising temperatures which we in the Sahelian region particularly suffer. Why? Because of our proximity to the equator. I mean, basic geography teaches that countries or geographical regions that are situated at the bottom of the equator suffers excessive heat and are exposed to the direct, impacts of ultraviolet rays, UV rays. So this is the context within which the conversation should be held. And so this issue have compelled a lot of displacement in, agricultural communities, forcing or creating a forced migration. As one, farmers are doing everything possible for the sustenance of the growth of their crops. That is on the one hand. On the other hand, fishermen who are fishing in the Lake Chad, are also abandoning fishing because of the shrinkage of the Lake Chad as a result of the factors I have already enumerated, and also making way to the highlands for purposes of farming. So they are diversifying into crop cultivation instead of their traditional fishing. Now, the third leg of it is where animal rearers, i.e. cattle herders, are so desperate to find pasture and fodder for their animals. And so what do? They are also forced into a southward migration, where they believe that the wetlands in the southward region will offer good pasture for their animals to feed. So now you have strength of competition, unhealthy one for that matter, one over land resources such as pasture, two over water resources. And so you realize that people now migrate all the way from Sudan with thousands of cattle, others from Mali, Niger, the north and far north of Cameroon, all making a southward movement towards the central portions in order to feed their animals. Do you think that they will spare, agronomic, let's say plants in people's farms? No, sometimes uncontrollably. At times, they actually come to negotiate with the farmer that, look, this your maize farm or this your beans farm, we are willing to pay you this amount of money or give you this number of cattle, but allow our cattle to actually chew and graze in your farm. If you agree, there is peace. If you don't agree, the evidence, and I'm saying this authoritatively because that is one of the components my PhD thesis actually looked at. If you refuse, you have a situation where they would come back at night and graze upon your farm anyway. So the farmers have suffered this whole issue from herders. And so most of these killings are as a result of farmer-herder conflicts, not a direct terrorist or insurgent confrontation. The insurgents have only taken an opportunistic capitalization of the economy thereof. And they tell the farmers that, look, we can protect your farms at a fee. So farmers actually pay revenue to insurgent groups, Boko Haram and ISWAP in particular, in order to have their farms and some water bodies protected for them. Farmers who do not subscribe to this economy by the insurgents now suffer a peril of the insurgents themselves, either confiscating their farms because it is you who don't want us to feed. So the thing have created a system of convoluted and complex web of, practical livelihood challenges and disruptions that requires a holistic approach. It is from this background that the conflicts in the Plateau State are lately becoming very inexorable because communities are protecting their farms. There are a lot of what we may term as climate refugees who are now, exodusing into these areas in search of livelihood options and alternatives. And so there is pressure on local community resources. And where there is such pressure, it leads to a competition. And the competition becomes so unhealthy that people must go back to tell that you are not even from here, and you are a settler, and I am an indigene, just to be able to control certain water bodies or lands. In fact, evidence suggests that water insecurity will constitute the greatest conflict threat in Africa in the next decade. Yes. So you see, African governments are not even confronting the realities of the day-to-day lives of the people. All these clueless ministers who are interested in land cruisers don't even read. Simple research will lead us into an understanding of the very rudimental, variables that feed into the arithmetic and the equation of the struggle of the ordinary person in Ghana. And same is true about the rest of West Africa. But they don't read. What was the business of the government taking about 600 people to COP28? COP28 is intended to have discussion and discursive approaches to climatic and environmental perils, especially in Africa, where we contribute little to, carbon stocks, but suffers the most of the perils. There are 600 people who were carried to COP28. What knowledge and expertise do they have on climate security? So you can just guess that more than half of them were side chicks, who ended up only in the hotels. You don't need more than 10 people, 10 intelligent people on the subject to go and make relevant impact. So our governments are clueless, yet they don't want to agree they are clueless. They are narrow-minded, they are not on top of issues, and all they think about is how to enrich themselves. So we're going to get to a stage where the daily struggles of the average person, the average African, the average Ghanaian, will be mobilized into a coherent force to seek social justice. That is inevitable if the current trend of things will happen the way they are. You see, when good governance is converted into corruption as of right to the politician, violence and violent resistance becomes a responsibility and a civic duty to the ordinary citizen. That is what is manifesting in Nigeria. So the situation in Nigeria is just offering a microcosm of the larger picture. It is a microscopic opportunity for all other African countries to view from that lens to begin to be proactive. But because we are very sensible in government, our governments are too wise. They will not see this. They are interested in percentages from lithium and other things. So at the end of the day, this will catch us so suddenly as a thief will catch you at night. So my brother, these killings are not weird. They are not a surprise to those of us who have taken particular interest in issues of international security and regional, security complexes. We know the underlying factors that are feeding into this. So clearly, when you do this, you give opportunity to transnational criminal entities to now, pound on the vulnerability created as a result of these kind of situations, knowing that the people have, developed an, if you like it, an intrinsic level of, susceptibility, all right, as a result of these vulnerabilities to joining them. Because if my farming can no longer help me, if my cattle rearing can no longer help me, and I am supposed to hold a gun for $500 at the end of the month, which by the way is far more than the salary of the average banker, in Nigeria and in West Africa, wouldn't I take the gun? So these are the thoughts our security agencies should understand, and government must understand it better in order to give policy direction to them. So we can only wish Nigeria well and wish Africa well and hope that we will wise up to take serious decisions to end some of these situations.
Right. Thank you very much, Elvis Botha.
Yeah, that's a very good analysis of following the angle from which he was coming, looking at it from the agricultural and then the climate change angle. If you follow the story, they mentioned some religious and ethnic underpinnings that could also bring up some of these issues. On the religious angle, I want to look at it from these two, and then the criminal component. On the religious angle, you see, religion, a lot of people will not agree with me, but religion is very dogmatic, such that it's based on belief and faith. So if what you believe in, backed by faith, is what you stand with as a religious person, then you can go to any extent to battle and fight most of these issues. And that, so within the, if you look at most of the sub-regions, some of the issues have some religious connotation, and then the ethnic component also come. Now, so if you follow through, most of the headers are predominantly Muslims, and a group of the farmers, at least what the stories say. I don't really know the terrain of the Nigeria there, I must be honest. But if you look at the headers from the story, I want to pick it that the headers are most predominantly Muslim, and then the farmers are Christian dominated. So if it boils and touches that angle of religion, then it becomes very difficult to actually contain. Then the ethnic aspect, the ethnic is more your identity, and you will not give up anything, and you will not allow anybody to suppress whatever you believe in and what you belong to. So you will do anything to also stand up and make sure that you defend whatever ethnic underlying. And this comes with geographical demarcations, where you will not allow other people to encroach within your jurisdiction. So you also come up with arms to ensure that you defend your territory. Now, then if you follow the whole thing, the group that attack these communities are classified as bandits, and these are outlawed groups. And they've taken the law into their hands. Picking from what Elvis was saying, they take it upon themselves to defend and guide and protect other people's lands, and then it gets to this. So ultimately, what will be the role of the sub-region, Africa, West Africa, and Nigeria, to curb some of these atrocities? So you see, if by economic principles, there's something we call legal monopoly that is given to this legal monopoly of violence that's given to states, in the context that you have the right to set up, form, and own the military, and then they have the ammunitions. And the purpose of this monopoly of violence is not to just go attack your people, perpetrate anything, but you use it to protect life and property. And so what will be the role of the government and the states within this area to protect this? If within the local community they are not able to mass up resources enough to protect their people, what is the sub-region doing? ECOWAS, whatever they do, to support, to ensure that these things are brought under control. You see, I'm looking at it in the context of this climate change. When you look at production, industrialization, job, and security, within it's going to create a situation where the insecurity will be high, and that will lead to a lot more dangerous attacks within the and security issues. You see, when you take the international business community, we have three major blocks, and the three major blocks are Europe in international business, and then we have the West, which is the Americans, then we have the Asia, and Asia, the Chinese people have developed to catch up with the Asia. These are the three major blocks that influence international business. Africa is somehow undefined, and it's because we are not together as a people, so that we can meet this Europe, West, and Asia as a block. But you go there as Ghana, you go there as Nigeria, even if you go there as ECOWAS, what about if you go there as Africa? Then we negotiate. We will compel the international business community to acknowledge and accept that there's another block in that business. Then we can now also negotiate properly, protect our endowment and resources, then we can now use it to promote the life of the people. That will reduce most of these activities that we find within the sub-region. It still goes back to leadership. It still goes back to the politician to ensure that production is picked up, and then there are other places that they do not have the resource endowment that we have, but yet they're able to create a living for their people. That sometimes, by economic reasoning, when crime rates begin to pick up, you can always relate it to development. When you promote development and it reflects in the life of the people, sometimes people are engaged productively and they do not have idle hands to get into some of these things. It comes back to leadership and what the continent can do to keep most of these things and to allow for development within the continent. That's my first thing.
Thank you very much. Mr. Pratt.
Well, what is happening in Nigeria, especially in the northeast, is a testimony of the failure of West African leaders. It's a clear testimony of how hopeless and perhaps useless our leaders in the sub-region have become. This is a ragtag army. You know, Boko Haram essentially is a ragtag army. Doesn't even have sophisticated weapons and so on. And yet, for years, it has terrorized the Nigerian citizens, caused mayhem throughout. Now, what is interesting is that these West African leaders who are not able to get their act together to help Nigeria fight this insurgency, now and again threaten to go and fight legitimate governments leading the patriotic revolution in West Africa. Until recently, if we hadn't shouted, and protested vehemently, these leaders, led by Tinubu of Nigeria, would have gone into Niger to wage a war. You can't fight Boko Haram, you want to go and fight the Nigerian army. Absolutely senseless. And what is the purpose? The purpose of fighting Niger and the other armies in West Africa, Burkina Faso and so on, is basically to entrench French neocolonialism. It doesn't make sense. You take Nigeria, and Nigeria has many, many things going for it. First of all, Nigeria has a huge population. It has a population in excess of 200 million. You understand? Indeed, Nigeria alone has the population, half the population of the whole of West Africa. Has enormous natural resources, including oil and gas. Nigeria actually produces in excess of 2 million barrels of oil a day. Can you imagine a stabilized Nigeria with a leadership which is capable of thinking about its problems and finding solutions? The impact of that Nigeria on the whole of West Africa region. And yet look at these West African leaders. They rig elections. They do all manner of foolish things. They are not focusing attention on the problem. What they want to do is to go to Niger and fight. Go to Burkina Faso and reinstate a completely discredited leader. You understand? The other thing which is interesting is that this insurgency in Nigeria has provided a pretext for all kinds of forces to find their way to Nigeria. Western countries have sent soldiers, they've sent intelligent people and so on. Nothing is happening. Are we to believe that these Western countries, France, the United States of America, Germany, and all of them, are incapable of providing assistance to Nigeria to overcome the threat of insurgency, especially from ragtag groups like Boko Haram and so on? Clearly, we cannot come to that conclusion. And if we cannot come to that conclusion, what is the failure? The existence of the insurgencies provides them with an opportunity, a huge opportunity, you know, to meddle in West African affairs. They don't want the insurgencies to go away. They profit from the insurgency. You understand? And it's not going to go away. In any case, why should countries like Ghana, Togo, Sierra Leone, Liberia, and so on, why would they need Western assistance in order to fight this low-intensity civil war? Why? Are we that hopeless? You know, so what is happening in Nigeria is indeed a testimony to a bigger thing happening in West Africa. One, the hopelessness of our leaders. Two, Western interference and exploitation of West Africa and so on. And I think that these problems can be overcome only when the forces, the popular forces in West Africa are able to mobilize themselves, to unite their efforts. First and foremost, to get rid of these useless governments, you know, which have become a bane on our development, and install popular democratic governments throughout West Africa. That's an important task. You know, something significant has happened in Niger. 4 or 5 months ago, Niger was one of the poorest countries in the world. Within 4 months, Niger became the fastest growing economy in the world, not in West Africa, in the world. We should be asking ourselves what happened. And what happened is very simple. They managed to take control of their resources and to exploit those resources for the benefit of their people. There's an example for Ghana, it's an example for Nigeria, it's an example for the entire sub-region, you know. But these leaders, these are our leaders, you know, these are our leaders. Last week, I saw a video of West African leaders meeting an ECOWAS summit in one of the countries. Come and see dancing. We thought that they were going there to think about the problems that confront us, how to get rid of Boko Haram, how to make sure that we can control our own resources and so on. They just went there and boogieing. They were dancing. These leaders. Look, if you don't get rid of these leaders and install popular leaders, democratic leaders, we are done for. We are not going anywhere. Our leaders are our problem in West Africa. And the earlier we saw that and dealt with them, the better it will be for West Africa.
Thank you very much.
Unfortunately, I have a very bad voice today.
Yes,
so,
yes, we can
I'm
see.
just struggling.
I was going to ask where the voice,
The
voice went to.
Yeah. Right. We'll proceed to our next topic for conversation, a very, very political one for that matter. Unlike in 2020, we will use all means necessary to protect ballots in 2024. This from the National Democratic Congress. Over the past few weeks, they've been speaking a lot. The carrying of machetes and cutlasses to, you know, police stations. But this one is, I think, is from the national organizer of the party, who spoke and said that they are going to do everything within their might to ensure that ballots are protected come December 7, 2024. Let me go straight to you, Mr. Ibrahim, to share exactly what you'll be doing to protect the ballots.
Yeah, thank you very much. You see, if elections in Ghana are anything to go by and experiences together within, and picking from the just ended 2020 election, we all know it's popularly said elections are won at the polling station. Now, to the 2024 approach, we know that the current administration will not want to relinquish power just like that. Though all economic indicators in terms of governance, security, every indicator within the Ghanaian context, in the economic measurements, this government has failed completely. But that does not guarantee a sure win for my party, the NDC. And the fact is this: if you look at the way we go into the election to vote, when it gets to the core of the campaign, getting to the 7th December there, you see that it moves from these ethnic issues coming, and we have a situation where, if you study carefully, a particular party, the MPP, can just concentrate on 2 major regions, get any other from somewhere to add to the 2 major ones, and then they're able to win power just by picking within the Eastern and Ashanti region. And you see, the kind of politics we do in Ghana, it gets to that point, and it's not, it moves from these economic issues and economic indicators, and it goes like, this is my party, I'm NDC, and an MPP, and those ones. Those variables are there, and we cannot downplay them. However, going into the election, the polling stations is the main issue. And we are determined that we would protect and guide every polling station. And you see, that's why, if you look at the organogram of the party, we have branches. And the branches are based on the polling station. And the duty of every branch is to police a polling station. And that's how the construction is. So it's going to be that we have to police and guide everything. There's no going to, the leader of the party has insisted already that there's not going to be a court issue. There's not going to be anything about going to court. We have to get it at the polling station, right? Get our people to get out to vote and police every single vote that is counted. Then the coalition, you see, and I have seen, I was in North for the by-election, and I saw how NDC for the first time, I saw the agency, the need to win that seat. It was so strong. And I was at a place called Ghana Camp. And the way we stood there for close to 2 days, no sleep, nobody moves till the election was over. We picked the results and moved to the collection center. That is a test case for us, which worked. So it's going to be replicated across, but this is broader. And so, by this, all party people will know, and we're going to do it from the polling station. But the challenge we have is the Electoral Commission. This is where I think I will set it. This is my position, not the party per se, but this is my position. Look, I've not seen the anger within the party folks to deal with this Electoral Commission to get things done. And we saw that they tested this assembly election without the use of indelible ink, and it created a whole lot of issues. And that is why they will have to get back to IPAC, sit there and fight it and keep an eye on them. If you are going to monitor the whole thing at the polling station, it doesn't mean we should leave IPAC and then the Electoral Commission to do whatever they have to do. And I am aware that a lot has gone into preparing for this, and next year, I want to call on the leadership that want to see more commitment and seriousness in this election. Look, this election is like communal labor. It's to save Ghana. Already we are all having issues with the way things are going, the hardships and everything, and there is the need to lead it, to at least take back from these people, then we can restore hope in the economy and save a lot of people. So the election, it's a communal labor, and it has to be looked at and at the polling station. And I am aware that at least everything is being done and put in place to police them from the micro level, that's the polling station, and that will aggregate into the major one. But honestly, I don't really like the vibe. I don't feel that agency in going into this election. Look, we're all in this country, and when you have the MPP in opposition, when they want to come to power, you see the way they go about it. They kind of make it look like when you do not change, then the whole system will collapse, and it sinks. But trust me, it's my party, but I will say it, I don't see that agency. I don't see that vibe that people would relate with and see that we are really serious to take power. And it's like most of our people, when you listen to them and watch them, it's as if it's a done deal. But trust me, it is not. It's a battle, and we must get all out. And I thank God we are from next year, the election year, to go. But from people I have met, meetings I've attended, and comments I've heard from people, and I've seen posturing from the former president's office, there's going to be a lot of fire from next year. And the polling station, every single election will be counted one from the polling station.
So you do agree that in 2020 you didn't do things right?
2020, I will not say we didn't do things right, because 2020, what happened was I was part of those who monitored Tema East in particular. And the Tema East was so unique to the extent that the earlier Global won by 3 votes. And that because NDC was not vigilant that year. When they counted first, NDC candidate won, especially the parliamentary. Then he called for a recount. There was commotion. After they recounted, he won by 3. And MPP in opposition will not allow another count. That's how he won and came and picked it. So I was there. What we did was to go to the collation center with our results. So we collated them from the polling station. By the 10 p.m., we were set with a raw collation from all the polling stations within the constituency before we moved to the collation center. And at the collation center, there were attempts to bring in some other bags within with pink sheets, which we resisted. And yet, at the end of the day, from that one, so I would say that in the 2020, it's not like we relax. However, there's work to be done. And we have to improve our game and up the game better than it happened in the 2020. We learned lessons from 2020, and we get into this election stronger and better and salvage the economy.
Always.
I have maintained on this platform that we need to watch it. One of the cardinal problems, even beyond corruption, that is responsible for instability politically in the sub-region is poor electoral management system. Truth be told, if you have an objective, independent electoral management body, will it be necessary for any political party to have a collation system? You answer me. You are the journalist here. Answer me. In the football pitch, do you find the players or the various teams critical about having their independent referees? Their own referees independent of the officiating referee? No. You see, if we create an electoral system that is transparent and with a sense of independence and objectivity, then half of the security problem is solved. Because everybody will know that there is a level playing field. Nobody is stopping you from your political gimmicks and gymnastics. But after everything is said and done on platforms and your door-to-door things and your midnight movement, on the day of joining queues to vote, when it comes to the element of counting or the management of the election at the polling station, if you have a credible electoral system, trust me, there will be no need at all for any political party to be having nightmares as to the legitimacy of the figures. All political parties are struggling to have collation systems because of the lack of trust in the central collation system of the electoral management body. And this is the same across all the countries, you know, in the region. All right? And Ghana is not an exception. If this hypothesis stands, then it tells you that ordinarily we shouldn't have had the issue of making it look as if one party is daft if they are unable to collate their resources. The main trouble, they may be daft, they may be careless, they may be reckless, they may be inept, but the real national danger is when, in the midst of the confusion, the electoral body itself of the country is unable to objectively solve the problem, and where their activities are so much as though they are an extension of the campaign machinery of another political party in the same election. And this is the problem we have in this country. You see, the Electoral Commission have ceased to be the same after Afarijan left. The appointment of the beautiful Charlotte Osei came with its issues and suspicions. But the woman was vindicated when even an opposition flag bearer won and was declared. Yes, we can excuse, you know, the suspicions and the crying and the, you know, the whistle blowing of their system being hacked and all of that. Granted that they were all gimmicks to get the incumbent Mr. Mahama then entrenched in power. The question is, in the end, was she able to do it? No. And is there even evidence that that is what it was? No. But fast forward, she was removed on very baseless grounds. I still don't understand. Now, afterwards, another beautiful woman was kept there, Jean Mensah, and she's still there, whose appointment has also been met with the kind of despondency the appointment of Charlotte Osei was confronted with. So you see, since this particular episode started, the Electoral Commission have ceased to be the same. It has become a compromised electoral body. You see, we need to be very honest in discussing critical issues like this. An objective analyst will tell you that in the face of the nature of appointments and how certain key office holders at the EC ascended to that office, when hitherto the advent of their ascendancy to some of those positions witnessed active political, you know, advocacy. How do they become officious in their adjudication of electoral matters? Very questionable. Very questionable. So this is where the problem is coming from. And so is the security of the ballots at the polling stations. All these police and other security people we take to the ballot boxes or the polling stations on elections days can be so corrupt. I have contested 2 serious parliamentary elections, and I'm telling you that the local dynamics of security management sometimes is not even about those the party in power. Okay, it can also boil on whom the district commander and the regional commanders are when it comes to who goes to which polling station. One day I'll tell my story of 2020. We are not stupid in this country. I'll tell my story of 2020 one day. And so if you understand the role the EC can play, the EC and their presiding officers, if you know the role they can play for victory or for your defeat, you will protect the polling station. In any event, if these are the basis informing the decision of any political party, and I'm not by this even defending the statement of the NDC, the MPP is as much interested in protecting the ballot just as the NDC. So since when? You see, sometimes you people invite us here to just waste our time. Since when have protection of ballot boxes or polling stations become an issue? No, tell me, since when? Since when has it become an alarm for one party to say that we will actually protect the elections at the polling station? It's a good thing. We should encourage all political parties to look. The Supreme Court told us in the face of electoral irregularities in this country that elections are won at where? At the polling station. So it is only wise and reasonable that any serious politician should take a cue and seek to protect your political and electoral interest at the polling station. How bad is this? So the NDC have said they will be vigilant to protect that nothing untoward happens. They will protect it. If they protect it and at the end of the day, the objective figure says they have lost, that is it. They will know they have lost and they'll go back to the drawing board to look at how to right their wrongs. I would have had a problem with the statement if they had said they will resist any declaration that is not in their favor. That would have been news for us to talk about. Unless there is more to the article that I am not privy to. I have heard that they say, oh, someone have incited others to go with guns and machetes and what?
Yeah.
Was that truly said?
Yeah.
Well, that is quite condemnable. But again, can you blame them if there is no trust for even state security at the ballot? You see, you can't fight an armed man with bare hands. The only time you can be man enough to fight an armed man is when you are armed. So, if your testicles have been stepped on once, I think the next time you are in that same sitting posture, you hold a long stick just to ensure that no feet comes towards where your testicles rose. These are the danger signs. These are early warning signs to electoral violence. And the 2024 elections in particular is a contest between two very desperate politicians. Very desperate. Two very desperate politicians. Their level of desperation, the same. Their level of lies, the same. Their level of con attitude, the same. Their level of incredibility, the same. Watch them. Mr. Mahama and Mr. Bawumia. Huh? They are twins from different wombs, politically. So, such an election will convey dynamics never witnessed before. And so, your preparation should be a 360 degrees preparation. Whatever it will take Ghanaians to protect an objective ballot, I will support it. Do you think the people who were shot in Techiman South, am I correct?
Yeah.
Do you think if they were armed also, the situation wouldn't have been a little better? You see, if you understand international security, especially when it comes to nuclear and weapon proliferation, there is a theory by Joseph Nyai that says that more is better. If I am the only one wielding a gun here, the rest of you becomes powerless. As little as I am, I'll tell you to shut up and you shut up. Because I have a humble friend that can humble you. You understand? But if I have a gun, and you have a gun, or maybe a more powerful one, Charlie, we will hold very diplomatic conversation. Are you getting it? Even if we have what we call military diplomacy, that is what happens. Both parties know the military capability of the other. So you are minded to conduct yourself appropriately to avoid clashes. It may be a sustained Cold War, so to say, but it is better. The state that should defend us were shooting people to death in Techiman. What have we heard about it? People, they are hiding under technicalities and legalities to sweep the matter under the carpet. So if I'm going to vote, I'll go with a gun if I have it, for fear that some shooting might be happening. If not for anything, so that I can also be given some warning shots as a deterrent measure as I run for my life. Don't you agree with me, Bless? No, wouldn't you do same? The human being is psychologically rational. And our choices are in tandem with that level of rationality. Wouldn't you? If you are traveling along a route, that route is noted for notorious armed robbery, and you have a gun, will you leave it home? You see, we all preach the gospel, but the gun and the Bible are all weapons. You choose your weapon on the basis of your characterization of the adversary. If I have a demonic attack, my weapon is the Bible. No, you can't shoot a demon. Are you getting it? With a physical gun. So demonic attacks, terrestrial attacks, my Bible is my weapon. Any other physical attack, from land gas to armed robbers to any form of intimidation, the gun is my weapon. A gun is not, let's not demonize guns. They are good. It depends on the hand that is holding it and the mind that is controlling that hand. I mean, bless. Are you learning? Are you getting it? Let's not be quick to condemn certain things. If we must go to the polling stations with determined civic responsibility to protect the ballot, by extension protecting the security of the state and livelihood, vulnerable ones for that matter, isn't it better? These kind of statements are early warning statements to tell you that nobody have trust again on the EC, nobody have trust again on the security apparatus, and now the court itself, from the 2012 election petition, we in the NPP felt that decision by the Supreme Court was not fair to us. The NDC now have reason to believe that the occasions they went to court, the justice system was not fair to them. So if the judiciary is not a place to go to, and you cannot trust the electoral system, and you cannot also trust the security, who at least may shoot to kill you when you talk, what will you do? Are you not on your own? And will it then be wrong if you take steps for self-protection? These are the critical things we must interrogate. Look at the kind of things we are, the EC, the controversy, anything you have to suffer when it comes to policy making. Any policy decision you must suffer to explain its understanding, all right? It's not a good policy. One of the characteristics, especially security policies, except those that are shredded in secrecy and in confidentiality for strategic purposes, public security policies must be simple, straightforward, even to the lay average person. But look at how the EC is always struggling to justify its decisions. What is the sense in the kind of registration system where you expect somebody from Narbo to actually travel to Nadoli Township to register, when that person have critical issues with buying salt? 1 Ghana cedi salt is a problem in most of these communities. So it's an intelligent way of, actually disenfranchising some of these people. What is the sense in it? But look at the justifications we've been hearing. That aside, there have been this controversy as to even the requirement for the registration. At one point, something is good for voter registration. It is not good for Ghana card. It is good for Ghana card. It is not good for voter registration. My brother, you see, when the electoral management system becomes subject to extreme public reservation, I'm not even talking of the criticism that comes from opposition party. When ordinary lay people who are not interested in political partisan colors are having reason to just say, and sit down, there is a huge timing bomb. If there will be problems politically in this country, it will not be caused by the NDC or the NPP. I tell you, it will be caused by the EC. You see, those people they pick as presiding officers, some of them very funny looking people, the troubles they can create. So we need to go back and look at our electoral management system very well. And I pray that, and I keep admonishing, there are certain thematic issues that you must just invite us here, and that is just the topic. We talk about only that thing with in-depth mastery of a surgeon on the subject and proffer policy briefs and recommendations and walk away. That is how Pan-African should distinguish itself. So that you don't only become a media channel, you also become a knowledge production house. Away from all the empty noises a lot of these media houses out there are looking for. Which party gives them money and buys them their key employees' cars is the one they talk about. Fortunately, Pan-Africa is not like that yet. So we can only improve.
Say it.
I'm only scared that if we don't put in certain things,
Right.
It will get. Are you getting it?
Right, I'm getting
so we are all going to the polling. I'm concluding. We are all going to the polling stations in elections 2024. With a second caution to protect the ballot. I believe if the ballot is protected well in an objective voting, MPP will win.
Right.
So I will protect it.
Right.
So let them also protect. They believe that if it is protected, you also win it.
Right.
No.
Right. Thank you very much, Elvis. Let me come to Mr. Pratt.
Well, the Electoral Commission had an opportunity to prove its competence only a couple of weeks ago when it supervised the district level elections. And I'm amazed, completely amazed, about the level of incompetence which was displayed in that election. And no doubt, if that level of incompetence is demonstrated in the elections in 2024, I cannot imagine what will happen. This is level elections. It was on the day of the elections. In some places, 3 hours into the elections, that the Electoral Commission finally announced that the elections could not be held in parts of the Eastern region and parts of the Ashanti region. Unbelievable. In places like Enyan Dintra, the election materials got to the polling stations after 9, almost 10 o'clock. Why? In other places, there had been transposition of the positions of the candidates. Somebody went and balloted for the first slot. When the ballot papers were printed, he was third, and so on. Just total mess. So when I look at the district level elections, it doesn't give me any confidence that the Electoral Commission has the competence to run a successful presidential and parliamentary elections in 2024. But it gets worse. You have a commission supervising an election, and some of its members actually go out to campaign against other political parties. And you remember that commissioner who went out and said that as far as he's concerned, the National Democratic Congress is a threat to Ghana's democracy. I mean, ab initio, this guy loses the legitimacy for getting involved in the elections. But he's still sitting there. And it gets worse. Recent appointments to the commission included a guy who is a self-confessed card-bearing member of the governing party. Not just that. He was part of the communications team of the governing party. How can anybody expect free and fair elections? And in spite of protests, from religious organizations, from political parties and so on, he is still there at his post. Unbelievable. I mean, you can't believe what is happening. Okay, so we are going to 2024 elections with all of this baggage. Now, in the 2020 elections, there are some things which happened which also just simply defy logic. You have the Electoral Commission announcing presidential results which were in excess of 100% of registered voters. Clear impossibility. Okay. Now, how was the elections declared? on a piece of paper, not a letterhead, without signature. This is the level of competence for Electoral Commission. You know. So I'm so very deeply worried about what may happen in 2024. And I think that all of us want to ensure that the 2024 elections are clean, they are fair. You understand? That's what all of us would like. Now, how do we get there? Some of the political parties have actually said that they will use every legitimate means, any and every legitimate means to protect the ballots. And there are those who have raised alarm and said these political parties are preaching violence, they are likely to disrupt the elections and so on. I urge those who have that view to take the 1992 Constitution and read it over and over again. The 1992 Constitution states very clearly that every Ghanaian has a responsibility to use any means possible, including violence, to protect the Constitution. And that we should not tolerate infractions of the Constitution under any circumstance. That's part of the Constitution that all the parties say they want to protect. Now, rigging an election, is it not a violation of the Constitution? That's a principal violation of the Constitution. I mean, the people's mandate, it's so very important, you understand? I mean, if you steal an election, if you rig an election, you are actually subverting the sovereign will of our people. And the Constitution itself is very clear on what measures we need to take in order to protect the Constitution. I hope we don't get there. I hope we don't get there. I hope we never get there. I hope we don't get to the situation where we will have to deploy all necessary means in order to ensure that the people's will prevail. But if we are pushed there, if the country is pushed there, brother, what can I do? What can I say? Ghana is not different from any other country. And you know the crisis which has befallen many countries, including some of the countries in our sub-region, as a result of election rigging or attempts to rig elections. I hope we don't get there. You know. And then sometimes I hear some of the politicians and I get very deeply worried. Yes, on the politicians, they say that, oh, we know that things are very bad, but we are going to deploy tactics to win the elections. What are they telling us? They are admitting that they know. I mean, when they say that they know that things are very bad, what does it mean? It means that they expect that the people will vote against them. So when they say that they are going to deploy tactics in order to win the elections, what are they saying? What are those tactics? How are they going to deploy those tactics in order to win the elections? Please, those who are dreaming dreams of using tactics to win elections and so on, they should be careful. The only way to win elections legitimately is to allow people to vote freely, make their choices, put papers in the ballot box, for the papers to be counted to reflect who has genuinely won the election. Any other tactics which is used in winning elections is illegal, is illegitimate, and it should be resisted. Finish.
Thank you very much. I have some messages, but let's finally look at our last topic. I think we have enough time to do that. The New Patriotic Party on 27th of January, they will be electing parliamentary candidates in I think they've done the orphan constituencies already. So
sometimes it's okay to read messages in between.
Right. I've received a number of them on WhatsApp. I think it's loading. So once it's done, I'll proceed to read that. But there are NPP MPs that are bowing out. A few of them, Chairman Sabunsu, we know, the Member of Parliament for the Swami constituency, Joe Osewusu, Bekwai, Atachiam, Ibuakwa South, Joe Gate, Sikado Ketan, Kennedy Japan, Asin Central, Dan Boche, Kwesi Amakwata, Itiwa West, Dr. Kwekwe Free Esfishuyoso, Emmanuel Mafo, Furikrum, Benito Usubio, Etrimanwa Biaje North, Carlos Ahenkra, Tema West, Nana Kwesi Ajay Boating, New Joabeng North, William Oreku Edu, Johnson Edu, Ahafuano South, Francis Menua Dabo, Ahafuano South East, Suleiman Sanid, Ahafuano North, Kojokum, Ahanta West, and then finally Francisca Oting, that is Kwabri East. So these are the MPs that won't be part of the 9th Parliament. They have voluntarily bowed out of the race. But what does Elvis Botta make of this race particularly? Already, Comrade Pratt has predicted that a few of them are going to fall in the primaries.
Yeah, when it comes to parliamentary primaries, it can be very dicey. And you see, that is because there is a defined college. And sometimes the choices of this defined college is not true to objectivity, but rather on the political strings they find themselves on and who pulls those strings. So that is a very foundational thing to say, especially at a time where delegate election is becoming extremely monetized. There can be a subversion of legitimacy and victories. And so when it comes to constituencies with sitting MPs who believe they have money or who have avenue to raise more funds than maybe in the orphaned constituency, the competition becomes more keen. That's number one. And number two, most of these places are safe seats already. So then again, everybody knows that winning the primaries, you are more than halfway through. Unlike the swing areas or the weaker, unwinnable areas. So these are the dynamics that goes in. Now, you have a situation where the choice of parliamentary candidate is not only about the contest and the voting. It is also about the strategy of the party to decide which candidate can win the seat. There are some candidates who can win 10 primaries. If Nana Akufo-Addo goes to contest them in primaries in those constituencies, those people win the primaries. But as to whether they also have what it takes to meet the general criteria of the constituency to be able to win the seat becomes a problem. So there are a lot of unspoken truths when it comes to parliamentary primaries. But I am worried that indeed most of these so-called colossus may lose their primaries because of the level of despondency and apathy within the MPP at the grassroots. People feel used and dumped. And so they will only switch camp to get a new breed of leaders whom they can trust. That is why some of the big wigs have taken cover in a diplomatic exit. It's not as if they are too happy leaving parliament or they are so tired or they want to give younger people the opportunity. No. Some of them have noticed that if they go, they will be humiliated. Others genuinely think that they've been in parliament for long. It's time to exit, much as they still love parliamentary business. So they are exiting on integrity and to prepare for future, political agenda. Somebody like the venerable former General Secretary, who is also MP, is one of them. If you look at others have gotten themselves into presidential ambitions. My main man, Honorable Kennedy Japan, after going for the elections he went for and having made that kind of good performance, it is only wise for him to step out and focus on his next agenda, and we will all support him. Someone like Joe Gatti also went in for, so it can be understood. So various reasons, feeds into that. I think that the NPP should give, plain, bridge for all of the contestants to move. But when it comes to these constituencies, you even have a situation where the presidency have entrenched interest sometimes. And that was what affected us in 2020.
Yeah.
And sadly, a lot of the blame went to Mr. John Buadu. And I tell you, I sit at National Council. I sat at National Council when most of these things were discussed. It was not John Buadu, but as General Secretary, he must convey and implement the policies of NEC and National Council. Then they've blamed this man who didn't have much to say about these things, and at the end of the day, actually made him an enemy to people he shouldn't be enemies to. So the presidency should stay off some of these decisions. Key power brokers should stay off. You find people campaigning that, look, me, I'm a Gabi boy, me, I'm an Osofo boy, me, I am. When you do those kind of, meanwhile, these same elders are those who must unite the party for victory. The NDC, the NPP must watch it, because the NDC, if they could equate us in parliament, it means that they can win majority parliamentary seat even if Mr. Mahama loses. I know the NDC friends, folks are not happy, I said, equated Mr. Mahama with Bawumia when it comes to certain ills, all right? But we can always go back to history and expose where and at what time. So elections are always subject to fraud at all levels. You remember, you know, there is a leading record in the Guinness Book of Records on electoral malpractice of the Liberia's 1927 elections, when the incumbent Charles won against Faulkner, and his total votes, the votes he had, exceeded the total number of voters in the electoral register. So sometimes desperation to entrench some candidates can lead to all. I don't know how they did the mathematics, but the votes he had alone is more than the total number of voters in the country. It tells you that they overstuffed the ballots. So desperation is, especially when you believe you are the losing end and you want to stay on to power, that is where all these tactics and intelligence and gymnastics begin to play. I think that the NPP should learn from what happened to us. We fought ourselves so much in primaries and lost some of the good people, and by extension losing certain seats we should have won. And look at the situation we have found ourselves in. I believe that if we allow a level playing field, it fosters the cohesion of the party broadly going forward. And there is a debate, and I want to conclude on that because I don't want to make much submission on this, that, oh, very experienced people are leaving parliament. And if we have a situation where certain caliber of people leaves parliament and parliament suffers a technical deficiency in their legislative and oversight responsibility, then it means we don't have a learning parliament. If you go to parliament for your first term, you should be given an opportunity both at committee level and whatnot to familiarize yourself with really what happens there. So I don't get it. Though this person has so much experience, let's protect and keep him. Then, if you want to believe in that philosophy, let's create permanent seats. Let's create, some jurisdictions have done it. Some seats are very permanent. And so anybody occupying them after some time is entrenched on merit as though you were now a public servant to the nation. Are you getting it? So that wealth of experience is not eroded. But that is when there is a focused direction and national plan with deliverables and timelines that must be achieved. But in a democracy like ours, where there is no direction, a clueless governance structure, why would you entrench some people in parliament when you don't even have a national development plan? What deliverables are they working up to? And what key performance indicators are serving as benchmarks to judge their contributions or otherwise? So, you see, we remain confused. Since Nkrumah left power, common sense have not come on the decks of governance.
Thank you very much. Zulka Usman says, good morning to the panelists. Well and eloquently submitted, Elvis. Thank you so much. Felix Apia says that does the protection of ballot include carrying of weapons? Wow. Nkola Anaba says, good morning, bless. I think the NDC should be training its experts to guarantee their victory in 2024. Okay. Ametoglo Jacob says, today in the history of Ghana politics, both the NDC and NPP have spoken well, though they belong to political parties, but they spoke what you want to hear about the true state of our democracy in Ghana. I learned that the state institutions are the calamity that's destroying the development of Ghana through corrupt practices. We will not go for any politician, but will hold the state institutions accountable. They should not joke with the youth this time. Dennis Wakwete says, Elvis Bota, as usual, has dealt well with the protection of the ballot, except his submission that JM and Bawumia are same, even in telling lies. That is really not on. JM may be desperate to be president again, but his past record as compared to what we are seeing now, it's evident that JM's desperation is for the common good and posterity and not himself. Shalom. Kobe G says wisdom is talking. Brahma Mahama says Bawumia can't beat Mahama in 2024. It is not possible. Brahma goes on to say that how can we trust an EC that assumes office on the back of a clandestine conspiracy to remove the previous one? An EC who declares results more than 6 times, an EC that prevented the whole constituency of having an MP up till date, etc. Right, thank you very much, Brahma Mahama, for that message. Pedro says he's watching live and clear in Kumasi Tanoso, Kesben Junction. Thank you so much for your time. One way politics in Ghana. Okay, ADK Codestra says good morning ADK, and thank you so much for watching. John Afo says, please Elvis, never ever equate Bawumia to Mr. Mahama, never. As for this one there, you have goofed big time. And Stephen Peng, who is also sending this message from where says, good morning, bless. I disagree with Mr. Bota's comparison of Bawumia with His Excellency John Mahama about integrity, honesty, and character. There's a vast difference between my JM and the MPP's Bawumia. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
One is a first-class liar, and the other is a second-class upper liar.
A lesser evil.
So mathematically speaking, the fundamental denominator here is lies.
No, but I can't really see
Mr. Ibrahim.
Bahama really lying because most of the things he says, he carries them true.
Most of the things.
Yes, he carries them true.
Yes, so most of the things or all the things he says.
Of course, we have limited resources. We have limited resources now, so you can say, and your resources will determine whether you execute everything or you live so. Yeah, on this MPP primary, trust me, I don't have much to say on that because it's in my interest and it's my wish that they lose more seats, then we will get more seats, and then we have the majority in Parliament. And if most of the big chiefs are going off with new faces to face our candidates that we have, that's good news for me, that we can all go all green and then go face and fight for most of the seats. But one thing I realized in their primaries is that there is this cabal that wants to determine who should go and who should be left out. And I've seen that even in some of the places that most of the MPs are going unopposed, for example, there's a lot of subtle and overt intimidation that people will just have to stay off. Like my constituency, the way they went about it, nobody came to contest the Abu, my village constituency. He's gone. Yes. Unopposed. And if you look at the dynamics and the way they went about it, it was obvious that if you attempt to contest Abu, you will have problem with the party. So, and most of them bickering within the MPP folks, they want Abu out so that they can have a fair contest because the way he goes about his things within the constituency. So on this particular one, the way it's going, and I've seen a lot of party bigwigs, the cabal within the Danado and Bawumia going out to make sure they have their favorites going, even contesting some sitting MPs. They have to plan people to contest some sitting MPs because they want them out, and they are protecting other MPs too. Bottom line, at the end of the day, we want to win the general election for the presidential and have majority in parliament so that policy will be smooth. And in the midst of all this, one thing that must stand out, that at the end of the day, parliament must stand as a strong institution, because in the kind of democracy we run, we would need the strong institutions and not just strong individuals who will manipulate things in their favor. It's in our interest that they lose more seats and then we can have the majority in parliament.
Right, thank you very much, Mr. Ibrahim. Mr. Pratt.
Well, I predicted about 2 weeks ago that there was going to be a tsunami in the primaries of the New Patriotic Party. The primaries have not taken place yet, and about 9 members of parliament are now going back to parliament. The tsunami has begun. There are many factors which are going to influence who gets elected and who doesn't get elected. And one of the major factors is going to be the outcome of the contest for the presidential candidature of the party. That contest, the divisions it brought and so on, would feature prominently in the selection of candidates, you know, parliamentary candidates. My brother Elvis was talking about safe seats and so on. Elvis, unfortunately, in the 2024 elections, there wouldn't be that many safe seats anymore. And take it from me, seats which were considered safe may no longer be safe, and we should be watching that. One of the things which has happened in the parliamentary primaries, which is very significant, is the fact that Matthew Opoku Prempeh has picked up forms. What does it tell us? Is there an indication that there's no longer certainty about his becoming the running mate to Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia? This is just a question I like to ask. He's pulled out. He hasn't pulled out, but he's picked up forms. What is the indication? Okay. Now, there are some of the candidates who were threatened much earlier. And I'm talking to somebody like Eugene Entry, who at some point was a deputy minister for Works and Housing. I know they led the charge to get Ken Ofori-Atta removed from office as finance minister. And around the period, we heard that a certain group within the party, which is loyal to Ken Ofori-Atta and so on, had plans to make sure that all those MPs who led the charge would not come back to the House. Now, interestingly, Ken Ofori-Atta has survived the threat, which would suggest that he's very, very strong. I don't know the source of his strength. Is the source of his strength the fact that his cousin is president? Or there are other factors making him that strong? Now, what will happen to those who ganged up against him? You understand? What happened to all those members of parliament who openly came out in support of Kennedy Agyapong? Will Kennedy Agyapong continue to support candidates who, according to him, betrayed him? Let's wait and see. Just let's wait and see.
Right. Thank you very much. I'll read a few more messages. This one here says, okay, I think I've already read this message from Dennis Y. Akwete. Please, the MPP man was saying something that would never happen again. Please, we can't let Bawumia to be president. Even unborn babies know Bawumia lies. By Kennedy Avoro from Bogatanga. Thank you very much, Kennedy, for your message. D from Tema says, Elvis is wasting his time supporting the NPP. He deserves to be in the NDC for a better political future. Okay, he said you. Abbas from Offenso says the NDC will surely protect the ballot in order to remove this corrupt government. The NPP source of hope is to rig election 2024, and we are ready for them. Thank you, Abbas, for your message. We are extremely grateful. Good morning to you, Bless, and your panel. I'm Felix, aka Chief Kreja from Ketekrachi in the OT region. I'm a die-hearted member of the NDC, but to be honest, I always like Elvis. I always like Elvis's submission anytime he comes on TV. Thank you so much. Thank you for your message. There is no democratic way the NPP can win election 2024. If NPP wins power again, then Ghana's economy would get worse than this. But if NDC sits down for the election to be rigged, then that's their own story. I don't have any party. I vote based on performances. You didn't add your name, but thank you for your message. Good morning, Pan-African TV. Today, Mr. Bota is almost neck to neck with our great comrade Uncle Pratt on frankness, truth, ideas, and courage. But he lost a significant mark from his scorecard when he consciously equated Baumia with JDM. Sorry, you from Teacher Baba in Salaga. Thank you, Teacher Baba, for your message. Whatever happens in the NPP's internal elections, we don't care. All we want is to win 2024. From Alan K. in Weja Bawe constituency. Thank you very much, Alan, for your message. Good morning to Bota. You have spoken with vision. Isa from Sola. Thank you, Isa, and good morning to the good people of Sola. Thank you very much for always doing the watching. Good morning, Bless. Is Elvis an NPP member? In fact, I'm very happy with his submissions. I pray they don't sack him from his party. Tina from Adan sent this message. Good morning to you and your open-minded panel. The truth is that Ghana is at a crossroads with this current electoral commission in place. If the EC chair should repeat what she did in 2020, then Ghana will turn upside down. No, Ghana won't. From Amanra Peter in Sunyani, New Doma, thank you very, very much for your message. Good morning, Bless. The NPP have run out of options and are desperate to stay in power using the EC. Let's be 100% alert. John Derry, you sent in this one. Let me say a very good morning to Abdul Razak Mahama, one of our cherished viewers, one of our very, very dedicated viewers. You are back in town. He said he actually met you, Mr. Pratt, on his way back to Ghana. He's in town, and then today he'll try his best possible to pass by the office. We'll be glad to see you, and thank you so much for always doing the watching. This is where we'll draw curtains.
But before you draw the curtains, I think it's important to announce
This Saturday.
that this Saturday,
Alaji
and Alaji is moving to Tamale.
Yep.
I understand that it will take place at the Picona Hotel.
Yeah.
And three very prominent members of parliament from the northern region will be on the panel. So all the residents of Tamale and nearby places are invited to participate in this very special end of year Alaji and Alaji at the Picona Hotel in Tamale.
Right. So we'll be seeing you in Tamale on Saturday. The time is 8 a.m. Picona Hotel. Make sure you troop in. We are going to have very live conversations. Make sure you're part of this. We'll draw curtains now, and hopefully tomorrow, the Friday edition of the morning show will come your way. My name is Kokwalo Maso. I sat in as usual for Kwame Usudan. So do have a pleasant day. Bye-bye.